We're very lucky to have joining us right now Jason Foster, the head of the Empower Oversight Whistleblower Group that is assisting FBI Special Agent Friend. Jason, great to have you back on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a great honor. I've watched your work over the years. You've defended a lot of whistleblowers. You've done some amazing investigations that have exposed wrongdoing, particularly in the FBI. This whistleblower complaint really jumps out at me for a lot of things, but there's one that really caught my eye. The idea that the way they've pulled Special Agent Friend off of duty is by revoking his security clearance. Are you aware of any reason that his security clearance should be pulled?
No, absolutely not. And this is a common tactic that we have seen with the FBI. They're using it more and more because they know that there's less oversight and less scrutiny of a security clearance decision because of the nature of it. It's harder to do oversight and have any kind of independent scrutiny. So it's rather than just suspending the person on a claim that they didn't do their job or that they engaged in some misconduct, they'll simply suspend their clearance, which means that they can't do the work that they would normally do. Then they can take them off the payroll, take their badge and gun, sideline them, and then hope that, they can just sort of grind them into, into compliance and get them to quit rather than continue to fight because they don't have any money.
Right. Train the account.
Jason, the treatment that Special Agent Steve Friend is getting from the FBI, is that something that's anomalous for you? Have you ever seen this before?
Yes. I mean, the FBI is notorious for retaliating against whistleblowers. And, they're just getting smarter at it by using security clearances as a pretext, which is what it looks like has happened here. Because, for years, Steve Friend was not a security risk in anybody's mind. He was an exemplary agent. He had received awards. He did his job. The moment that he reported wrongdoing related to J6 cases, all of a sudden now he is put on suspension. He's walked out of the building and they're taking his paycheck away. So they're in the process of that right now. I think he's allowed to use his annual leave while the security clearance investigation is ongoing. But as soon as that's out, then he will have no paycheck anymore.
Just remarkable. It appears that the retribution goes beyond just the agent himself. His wife, I understand, was bounced off of Facebook mysteriously. Tell us what you know about that. And apparently she doesn't even do public posting, right? She just uses Messenger for family messages, right?
Yeah. So, that's what's reported to me is that his wife sent a private message to someone who had reached out through an intermediary and asked if there was any way that they could be helpful to Steve given what he was going through. And she responded, with something along the lines of essentially, yes, we appreciate, your support, sharing the story as much as you can. And then within 30 minutes, her Facebook account was suspended. She identified herself in the private message as Steve's wife.
Wow, that's the offense,
Jason,
apparently, huh?
Right. Jason, there are a lot of folks out there who have viewed the FBI's behavior and some of the ways in which they have been maneuvering. And for a lot of people, it's scarily reminiscent to mafia-type tactics where you don't necessarily just target the target. You target the target's family members, the wives, the children, things like that. And as we are seeing with the wife whose Facebook page was taken down, maybe that wasn't a case like this. But it just seems like this whistleblower complaint, so much of the contents of it is the latest proof that the FBI is targeting spouses, invading personal privacy, violating 6th and 8th Amendments. Your thoughts?
Well, the things that Steve reported to his supervisors and complained of internally were essentially in two categories. They were one that they were requiring them to describe the cases in the FBI's case management system in a way that did not reflect reality. And that the reason that they were allegedly doing that was to get, quote, buy-in from the field because they knew they were going to get resistance from the field for January 6th cases. And so in order to combat that, they came up with this bureaucratic way to essentially reward the field with bogus statistics and to make it look like there was a large domestic terrorism surge across the country in lots of field offices. So, for example, Steve is listed as the case agent on several cases related to January 6th where he was not in charge and was not doing the work. And when he went to his boss and said, this isn't the way we're supposed to do this according to FBI regulations. If the Washington field office needs help with the January 6th case, they're supposed to set a lead. And they send out something in the system that tells, a field office in Florida that, you need to go interview the subject or something to that effect. But the field offices like this because they get statistics that show that they're have an increased number of domestic terrorism cases, and that comes with money and resources and prestige. So Steve complained about that. And the other major category that he complained about, which is sort of much more disturbing, is the threat to public safety by executing search warrants in a way that, in cases where it wasn't appropriate, in Steve's view, and according to his history and practice of serving on a SWAT team in another field office. So what they were doing was, even if it's a misdemeanor case, a nonviolent case, and even if it's a case where the person is represented by counsel and cooperating with the government, there were cases like that Steve indicated that they were insisting on, executing warrants via SWAT, which is actually the point he made was that's a threat to public safety, because if you use more aggressive means than is necessary, then you risk a Ruby Ridge or Waco type situation. And in fact, that's one of the lessons that was supposed to have been learned from Waco, is that David Koresh, could have been intercepted when he was in town running errands instead of getting him at his, compound. Anytime you're sending agents in, knocking down doors with guns, you're creating more risks than you have to if that's not necessary.
Yeah, that's the point. He didn't think it, and he's a guy that served on a SWAT team. He would know what's necessary. Has a good training on that. It's pretty remarkable. I want to go back to something because I think I just heard something pretty extraordinary. The reason the FBI was sending these cases to the field was to get reluctant FBI agents to join in. And the reward is you're going to get more money, more credit, even though you're not handling the cases. So they had a problem maybe even before the cases were going to the field, and they were trying to deal it with kind of I don't want to call it a bribe, but an inurement, right?
I mean, that's essential. That's a reasonable inference to draw. I mean, what Steve was told was, that he had that the whole point was to get, quote, buy-in, unquote, from the field.
Amazing.
So presumably they knew that was going to be a problem before they did that.
Wow.
I wanted to ask you, one of the most disturbing elements of this complaint is the deprioritization of child exploitation. And I'm old enough to remember when FBI field offices across the country had to rotate agents on and off of those cases because they were so serious, because they were so emotionally and psychologically damaging if you were on those cases. But now, all of a sudden, they're not. Who on earth is calling the shots in something like this?
Well, I mean, it's pressure from headquarters to, again, they reward offices that have high numbers of stats related to domestic terrorism, because that's what they're being told by the senior leadership in Washington, D.C. that is the most important. And in Steve's written declaration that he sent to the Inspector General and to Congress, he specifically says that his supervisor told him, these child exploitation cases that you're working, these trafficking cases that you're working, those are not a priority as much as the January 6th cases. He explicitly says that in his declaration.
He sure does. We got about 30 seconds. A whistleblower like this needs a lot of support. Anyone in Congress, anyone in the former ranks of FBI rallying around Steve Friend?
Yeah, he's been getting a lot of contacts from current and former agents who are applauding him for having the guts to do what he did. He has made his disclosures. He's made his disclosures to both sides, by the way. He sent his disclosure to Senator Durbin, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, as well as my former boss, Senator Grassley, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. And, I know that I'm confident that Senator Grassley is going to be supportive.
He's got a lot of history. Jason Foster, we're so honored to have you on, and we love the work that Empower Oversight does protecting whistleblowers. Great to have you on. Big story. We're going to be following this all the way through.